order superseding provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting online. The Commission welcomes participation in the meeting by the applicants and general public. Attending the meeting tonight are all 6 conservation members: Eric Foley, Marilyn Frank, Margaret Wheeler, Ian Jeffries, and Jim Gazzo. The meeting is being recorded by Westford Cat. We respectfully ask that everyone mute their computer microphones and phones when they are not in use to avoid unnecessary noise during the meeting. This is an open meeting, so for all panelists who have access to the chat panel, please only for technical issues related to the video conference. The Commission will proceed by opening the agenda items, having the applicant or the representative present the project, or if previously open in a public meeting, they will provide a brief summary of the project. The Commission and staff will follow with questions, and then we will open up to the public for questions and comments. At this point, if you wish to participate, you will raise your hand and your microphone will be unmuted for you to participate. Due to the limitations of the platform, attendees that are accessing the meeting via the telephone number at the top of the agenda will only be able to listen to the proceedings and will not be able to contribute. Please access the video conference via the link on the agenda, even if you do not have a webcam to participate. The chair will take a roll call vote on all voting issues. Okay, so our first agenda item is open forum. Anybody got anything?
I have just a couple of things, Peter. It's Carol.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention, I started to mention just before we were starting the meeting, that I have been working with Karen DeWeese from Summer Village, and they have been doing a lot of planning. They have their advisory committee formed now, and they do have some people who have moved into the cottages. They're not at 100% at this point, but there's quite a few people who are either there for weekends or moved in for the season. And one of the things that she and I had worked on a little was a table that she's kind of calling do's and don'ts. And she's presented it at a couple of outreach meetings that they've had with the residents already. And I said that when I spoke with her just yesterday, I said I would send it out to our subcommittee to just in case there's anything that they see that they'd want to help clarify, or if we have questions about any of it. So I'll be sending that out shortly. And then the other thing was just, I think at least you and I, Peter, received an email from Bill Harmon about some dumping at the end of Hemlock Road, which is over near Nabnasset and the Edwards Beach parcels. And I just wanted to see if anyone had any concerns or recommendations for how we might try to curb the neighborhood from using this, or whether, I don't know if there might be a landscape company or landscapers. I haven't been over there in a while, so I haven't seen it most recently, but I'm told that it's been active for quite a long time as a dumping area.
Carol, I walked over there last week, and it looks like it's almost all leaf droppings and maybe some grass clippings, and it looks as though some kind of a front loader or a bobcat type device pushed the debris in and flattened it out. It doesn't look like there's any or much construction debris at all. It's just leaves and grass. And Bill's note said that they knew that it was being dumped by a pickup truck, and it's been going on for years. So I hope they have the information about the pickup truck and who's doing the dumping, because otherwise, what do they want us to do? There's already a sign there.
There is a sign? Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a sign.
The sign's still there? Okay.
There's a sign that says...
I had cleaned up that site back about 15 years ago, and we had posted those signs. And back 15 years ago, there was all kinds of stuff down in there. And I think we rented a flatbed truck to take it all out of there. So that's good news if it's just yard waste. So, and the signs are
That's
still
what I
there.
thought too. There is clearly some dumping going on, and somebody's making an effort to smooth it out and push it back. But I don't know who it is, and they know they're not supposed to. The sign's right there.
Is it something you think, Jim, that's going to decompose, or do you think it needs to be removed? I could ask Highway if they could do it.
The vast majority of it will decompose just fine. There are a few pieces of lumber or something in there that'll take longer, but that's about it. Everything else is leaf litter and grass clippings.
Okay.
Is that it from the commission on open forum? Does
Yes.
is anybody in the audience have anything on open forum?
Not seeing
Anything no
anything,
hand?
Peter.
Yep, okay. All right, so we're gonna go to our first agenda item, which is a public hearing for Brian on 3 Lowell Road. And I have the legal notes. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020 at 7:30 PM via remote participation on the notice of intent application of Stephen Brine for the removal and replacement of a retaining wall with 100 feet of jurisdictional wetland at 3 Lower Road. Assessors map 74, parcel 24. Okay,
Hello, how are you?
good.
All right. So basically what's going on, there was an older retaining wall there, cinder block, that was pushing forward for many years now. Basically because there was no drainage behind or anything like that. So the frosties were pushing it outwards. Over this past winter, some of the top plate, we'll call it, became, loose. The kids were playing up there and it crumbled a little bit. So the family, all decided to, chip in and put together a new wall. We were unaware that we, needed any type of permit for a retaining wall that was existing. So we ended up speaking with Carol about this. She's been a lot of help with us, actually filling out the form because it was our first time. So thank you again for that. I got some information from the Masons. It's Castle Masonry, a very reputable company. They gave me the name of the blocks, which are the Keystone retaining wall blocks. They're 8 inches by 18. What they have is they'd removed the old cinder block already, and they put down the 3/4 gravel footing. And then they said that there will be seven rows of the Keystone retaining wall blocks stacked upon each other, set back with crushed gravel behind it for proper drainage, so the frost heaves wouldn't ever push it out again. Also with that, there is a little top cap, which is about 4 inches. So if you add everything together off of the footing itself, you're looking at about 60 inches, so 5 foot tall. The stairs to access the house would be 5 foot granite block, so nice and wide. And let's see what else here. That would be about it on my end. If you guys have any further questions, I'd be more than glad to answer it.
So is that lower, is that a dirt road?
That is a dirt road, yes, sir.
So Carol, I assume there's been hay bales or something put up on the other side of the road, right?
Actually, I don't know, Steve, did you put up anything? I don't remember.
I was down there I went down there last week by the site and I didn't see any erosion control on either side of the road.
No, there's nothing at the time. That's it. That's where we're kind of at right now with you guys acting. What would need to be done to, satisfy the board, and actually where I might be able to acquire the stuff to do so. If you had any input there.
Well, we need to get some erosion control to the water there to make sure the dirt isn't washing into it.
Alrighty, no problem. Is there a specific type you prefer? Alrighty, thank you.
And the other one I have a question about, Carol, isn't there a requirement if it's more than 4 feet or something, it has to get reviewed by engineering or something? Is it 4 feet?
Yeah, the building commissioner will require a structural engineered plan to be submitted for any wall over 4 feet.
Okay, because the diagram that came with the application didn't have any dimensions on it, but the gentleman was just telling us that it'll be about 5 feet, 60 inches from the base to the top of the wall.
Correct.
Yes, so that's correct. I think I had mentioned that to Steve earlier as well. I don't know if you've got that plan in the works going to the building commissioner, but he will require that.
Absolutely. We haven't spoke to the commissioner yet. We just figured this was the first thing to move forward. We did get a structural engineer involved. That's the gentleman who drew up the drawings and all of that stuff. So we'd be more than glad to link him up with the building inspector to get the permit on that end of it.
with erosion control and okay on the wall, I'm good with it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, any other comments from the commissioners? Okay,
Do you guys
so,
recommend a place that I could buy some erosion control locally? That way I could actually get it down there tomorrow.
Steve, you might try like a Tractor Supply store. I don't actually know locally who else. Home Depot may carry it as well, or Lowe's, one of those kinds of places.
Now, do you prefer hay bales or the like the nets that I've seen before? It's like a mesh net with stakes in it, whichever.
So
you guys
we usually get, if it's a tight spot, we usually get a siltation fence, which is like the black fence that you see that's about 3.5 feet high. It gets buried into the ground and it's staked. And then oftentimes there's wattles, a straw wattle, which is a long kind of netted, maybe 15 feet, something like that. But I think that those same companies do carry those kinds of things. If not, I would have to make some inquiries with some other contractors because I don't purchase it.
Okay. Do you recommend the hay bale? Do you consider that a tight area, or is there enough passage, for hay bales, or should we go with the net that you were just talking about?
I think that it's good to have the siltation fence and the wattles. That's the best protection. And the wattles would go in front of the silt fence and the silt fence is buried in the ground. I don't know about the compaction over there, how hard it's going to be to get it in the ground, in which case you might find that just the wattles are all you're going to be able to put in. But maybe you can see what it's like if you put a shovel in the ground and whether you can get it in there.
Okay, and last question, do I put it on one on the water side of the road and then one also where the on the house side, or just on the water side of the road?
I recommend on the water side, if you have ownership of that or the ability to do that, just because you're looking at the photos that we have on the screen, their equipment is going to need space, so they'd just be tearing it down.
Got you. Okay, so we do own on the opposite side of the road, so that's no issue. And I will get the silt fence and the wattles, and I will set that up immediately.
And then since the commission's indicating that they don't have any issue with it, what happens next is that they issue an order of conditions. And so that would be the permit.
Okay.
So that will happen at their next meeting.
Okay. And do I file for a separate permit with the building inspector also, or is this all categorized as one?
You need to contact him and find out what he'd like. He may have separate requirements that I'm not aware of.
Okay, no problem.
So our next meeting is on June 10th, and we'll continue this to then and issue an order of conditions. But you need to make sure you get all the erosion control in before we issue the order, okay?
Absolutely. Now, do we have
Are we
to
meeting
wait?
on May 27th?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess we are. Oh, you're right. I'm wrong. Yeah, it's May 27th. I'm sorry. Skipping ahead.
Okay, and just from my understanding, so we have to wait on the finishing of the wall till the finalization of this May 27th?
That's
After we
correct.
comply with, okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah, legally, yes, you do. You have to wait, so.
Yes,
Still
no
go through the
problem.
building department.
I will reach out to the building inspector tomorrow and talk to him about the situation and see if there's anything further I have to follow up on his end for a separate permit.
So
Okay.
Steve, just email me to let me know that if you have issues finding the erosion control, and if you don't and you get it installed, just let me know when it's installed.
Excellent, will do.
Okay.
Thank you very
All right,
much,
so-
appreciate it.
Any questions from the audience on this? Hearing none, can we continue this to May 27th?
So move.
Second.
Eric,
Yep.
Margaret,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Jim? Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am. It's not
Meeting.
working right now.
Okay. All right.
I vote yes.
So that's good. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, we're
Thank
going to
you.
move on to our our next agenda item, which is a public hearing for you at 13 Alcorn Crossing. This is a legal notice under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. They are remote participation to consider requests for determination of applicability of Young U for landscape redesign, including clearing of grown vegetation, stabilizing pond bank, and installing a chip and coop and run with 100 feet of a dirt section of wetland at 13 Alcorn Crossing, assessors map 21, parcel 60. Okay, welcome.
I'm just trying to see if he can unmute his microphone.
Okay.
Okay, he's unmuted.
Okay, so I will explain what is going on in our home. So we bought the house in last November. So we want to redesign the landscape. So currently in this kind of area A, it is kind of a banded garden. We plan to reopen it and plant some vegetable, and so in the area B, so two sides of A, area B. So these two areas actually currently they are designed for burn area. So the previous owner just burn some stuffs in every spring. So we plan to make some depth on the bank and plant some fruit trees in the B area. So the fruit tree we target are just apple, peach, blueberry. Also in this kind of C area, 2C. So there are two piles of the previously existing vegetarians. So they are just previously there. They are cut it. So we plan to move them out, cut to small pieces, and burn. So currently, I think it is beyond the date. So I think we will burn them in next spring. So we plan to build chicken run and chicken coop. Currently, we have two areas. One is D1 and D2. So both of them, one is on the left side of the shed. The other will be the right side of the shed. So we have to decide which side. So, but I would like approval. So either of them will be fine with us. So it is appropriate. So in the area of F, there is a dead tree. So it basically fall down. So we want to remove this dead tree. So I think Carol has a picture for the dead tree. It already fall down. So that's all. Any question?
Carol, have you been out there?
Yes, so I went out when I learned that they were doing the work, before they realized that they needed a permit, and talked to them about the wetlands and the concerns and the permitting. So we talked a little bit when I was there about looking for a place for the chicken run and the chicken coop that would not be so close to the wetlands. You can see in the photographs, there's a bit of a slope from the area of the garden that they had cleared out, and the chicken coop is kind of in the back there. So on the map that he proposed, I don't really have a problem with either of the locations. I think, and since I'm not looking at, I can't remember if it was E1 or E2. E1, I think, was a little bit more, maybe a more flatter, usable area without having to cut any other vegetation really around it.
Yeah, but really it's kind of just the lawn. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, and they had a tree where F is shown that came down, and there was also just some vegetation around the edge of there. And the wetland really was kind of right off of the house where the lawn area ended. It became part of the vegetated wetland. So, I explained that to them. I think one of the things that I guess I just have a question about is the timing of, because I haven't been over there since I was there the first time. whether the vegetation that was cut was moved to a burn place, because some of it was kind of piled in the wetland area. So that's a question for you, Heng Yong.
I think, can you explain a little bit? Carol,
Yes?
can you explain a little bit? What's your question?
Did you, you were gonna move it to a burn pile, the vegetation that had been cut. I didn't know whether you had done that yet.
So currently, actually for the broad area, so there are 2 piles. So actually, after you speak with you, we actually just cut small and remove the area in the left one. The right side haven't done yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we will done it in next year because we have no certain time. So definitely we will plan to move it out maybe in this month or next month, but not burn.
You know, get to burn to summarize that. As soon as possible, right, if I may.
I'm not sure who's talking.
Yeah.
Whomever's on their phone, please just mute yourself. Thank you.
When we get the RDF, I see no reason why we couldn't review that quickly and make a determination.
I don't know, this background not mine.
Yeah.
No.
Getting in the application, and we'll get it on the agenda and we'll review it, and more likely than not.
I don't know,
Somebody's on their phone and
you can't mute up. You can't about us.
no, I don't have.
No.
Okay, let's just say it again, Peter.
Okay, so I will explain. So currently, for the 2 piles, the vegetarian, so the pile on the left side, we already moved out, cut it into small pieces and burned before May 1st. But for the right side, so we have done it yet. So we plan to move out to cut into small piece, maybe in this month or next month, but we cannot burn in this year. So we plan to burn in next year. Next year.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the only other thing I would say is where they originally started to put the chicken coop, I'm not sure I'm completely clear on how they were going to vegetate that, whether that's part of the garden or if that's going to be just stabilized with grass seed or vegetated in some other way. That was the only other part I'm not positive about.
So previously for this kind of things, they just designed for growing area. There are some grass-like vegetarian. So currently they already grew out.
Okay. So you don't feel like it's bare ground anymore? I mean, I was there early spring.
Also, I listened to you. So for this area, after we move the cigarette to the applied side, we plan to plant fruit tree.
Okay. Is everybody good with his project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody okay with this?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to
one
continue this
question
to our
about-
next meeting and issue.
Somebody had a question, it sounded like.
Go ahead, Eric.
The fruit trees that he wants to plant adjacent to the wetland, how did he plan on maintaining those? Hopefully he won't have to need a lot of like pesticides or whatever to, maintain and get the trees to fruit.
Yeah, we'll maintain, definitely. So also as part of the garden. So we will redesign the landscape. We want to make this kind of view beautiful. Yeah.
But his question, Hen Young, was, will you have to use any pesticides? A lot of times fruit trees have a lot of pests.
No. Just for the view, so we don't use that kind of pest control something. No.
And we're happy that what he's planting for fruit trees is, maybe, something we might find around here, not an exotic or something.
Well, I think you
Can
have apples and blueberries.
Okay.
apple, blueberry, peach, these kind of things.
Yeah.
That's what-
Okay.
I got no other question.
Okay, any questions from the audience on this application? Since this is an RDA, we can issue a negative, and we might want to just condition it that he all plantings need to be native plants.
Okay, and then also, Peter, just at the cuttings, the vegetation that was cut, that it does get removed to the burn pile.
Okay, we can include that in the conditions too. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve this as a negative RDA?
Yes.
So,
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
aye.
Margaret,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Peter, yes. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Eric,
yes.
Margaret,
Yes. Yes. I don't know what you're saying. I can't hear you.
Ann,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Jim?
And yes for Jim too.
Okay. We're good then. Okay, we're all set. You guys hear me? No? I better call him. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes. Yes.
You're not on the internet. Do you know what the phone number is? I better call in on the phone.
Peter, we can still hear you.
Yeah.
We,
Okay.
you're frozen.
Oh,
but
you
we
can still hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, you can hear me? Oh,
Yep.
all right, we're going to move on
Yes.
to our next, we're going to move on to our next public hearing, which is for Phil Brown at 6 Pines Road. Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171, Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 13th, 2020 at 7:30 PM. We have remote participation to consider request for determination of applicability of Joanne Philbrown for the abandonment of the existing field subsurface sewage disposal system and installation of a new septic tank and pump chamber within 100 feet of a jurisdictional wetland at 6 Kings Pine Road, assesses map 22, parcel 106. Welcome.
Hello? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, who's this?
Yes.
Jeff Hannaford.
Oh, Jeff, okay.
Glad to see everybody's doing well. What we have is a failed septic system at 6 Kings Pine Road. It was originally built in the early 60s. There's an intermittent stream that cuts through the back of the property, and the existing septic system is to the rear of the house, between the house and the stream. The existing leach field is probably within 25 feet of the stream. And the septic tank is at about 50 or so feet. What we're proposing is to move the leach field to the front yard, outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The way the house is laid out, of a split level layout, and unfortunately the pipe from the house to the septic tank goes out underneath the basement slab. So there's no way to move that pipe around to the front, and it's a finished basement. So we're stuck with the tank in the back. So we're going to replace the existing tank with a new 2-compartment tank. And we need to add a pump chamber in order to get the effluent from the back to the front because the front is higher. Work in the buffer zone will be replacing the tank with a new one, the pump chamber, and the force main connecting that to the new leach field. There's erosion control shown. That will take place around the construction area. It's primarily a lawn area right now. So the new tank will be 51 feet from the edge of the stream. And everything else will be slightly further away until we get around the side of the house to the front. That's basically it.
I have a couple of questions, Peter. First, who's the applicant
Go
on
ahead,
this? Does
The applicant,
yes,
the house was owned by Joanne Philibrown. Joanne's passed away.
Right.
The person in control of the estate right now is her ex-husband, Brian. Brian Philibrown is acting as the applicant on her behalf, her estate's behalf.
is he like a trustee or?
Yes.
All right, it should be signed by him as trustee for the estate or whatever, right? Because right now it shows the person that passed away's signature.
Yeah, Brian lives up in New Hampshire, wasn't available at the time. And so we put the signature on. It should have said Brian, not Joanne. That was a mistake.
I just want to make sure that whoever's doing the project or making an application for it actually has responsibility and ownership.
Yeah, I can get that info for you.
Okay, and the second question is, as far as the septic, the field itself, is that sized for the current house?
Yes.
No larger?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Any other
Peter.
questions from the commission member?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience on this? Since of maximal feasible compliance, it is an RTA, so we can issue approval of negative determination.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, you were broken
We
up
can
there.
issue a negative determination.
Conditional negative?
Yep.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to that effect?
so move.
All right, we should say something in there about who the applicant is in this case,
Got what?
about who the applicant is. We should say whoever the ex-husband is.
So do you want your
we can
condition
change
to be,
that.
Jim, do you want the condition to be a request for them to submit authorization or who's going to be in charge of the oversight of the project?
Yes.
Sure, that would be
Yes.
good.
Okay. Okay, can I have a motion then?
So moved.
Second,
All in approval, Eric?
Yep.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ann?
yes,
Jim?
And Jim says yes too.
Okay, Peter says yes. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
second,
All in favor, Eric?
Yep.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ann?
yes,
Jim
Peter,
says yes
yes.
too.
Okay. We're good. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Peter. Can anyone else hear him?
We're not hearing you.
We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continue of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Spalding Hill Estates definitive subdivision, Augustine and Dunstable Roads. To move on to our next, which is a continuation of hearing and issue. You're not hearing. Okay. I'm going to.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're hearing you. It's just a little broken up.
Yes, it's coming through, Peter.
Hang on. Hmm. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing and issue of order conditions for Spalding Hill Estate.
Good evening, everyone.
Mark, you there?
I'm here, yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Mark, we could hear you. There was a little bit of an echo, but we could hear you.
Okay. I had an opportunity to review the revised conditions that Carol put together. I don't have any issues with them. So hopefully we can put this to bed, and then my next order would be to draft up a monitoring plan for the surrounding wetlands and ponds, groundwater and surface water monitoring plan.
So I have a question, Mark.
Okay,
Who's talking?
I became aware that there's going to be a access to 48 Dunstable Road now off the development.
I can't hear you.
I don't know who's talking.
It
I don't know
does.
either.
Peter
Can you
was,
hear me
Peter
now?
was asking about 48 Dunstable. I think that he said something about that there's some change maybe from that lot.
A change from that lot. No, we
I
had
think it was-
a discussion at the planning board because the owner at 48 Dunstable Road would like to have access onto the new subdivision. So we just had a discussion about that. He's not sure if he's gonna pursue that, but he wants to have that option in the future. So the planning board made some changes to some of the language that would allow that to happen. And naturally, if anything does occur within the 100-foot buffer zone, we would obviously have to file a new filing for that lot, but nothing additional is being proposed over there at this time.
I don't know if Peter's audible or not. I don't know if that's the right word. Mark, can you also tell us where it would come out and how they would access? Because the St. James Way is supposed to be an emergency access road only. So would it be a driveway or would it be just for emergencies still?
It would be his primary driveway. So it would be up towards about 200 feet down from where the intersection is from the top of the hill. And we've already talked about this with the planning board, with the fire department, just to make sure the emergency access gates are all in the right way, and that the the fire department would have sufficient access into his driveway if that situation arose. And everyone seems to be satisfied with that. One of the conditions would be that if in the future he does want to have a driveway onto that, it would have to get reviewed by engineering, police, fire, and I believe the planning board as well, just to confirm that it's not going to have any other adverse impacts. They were also talking about having him become, or at least pay into the homeowners association for maintenance, if and when that driveway is ever constructed.
Peter, are you able to speak now?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So there's no changes to the plan, Mark, right?
Right?
Can't hear.
Peter was
He's
asking, are there any
change to
changes?
the plan?
Are there actual changes to the
No.
plan?
No, there are no
Okay,
changes
nothing.
to the plans.
This is just discussions.
Correct.
So I think the point was that Peter wanted to make, and if you can hear him, you can say it, was that the only reason the commission was allowing that St. James was because it was required as an emergency access and not because it was considered a driveway.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be used. It's just for one driveway. I don't think I know I mentioned that many times to the planning board, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it to the commission at some point that that in the future, McNeil was going to abandon his driveway, which goes down right near the wetland. He would like to have the opportunity to abandon that and have access onto the new road. So it's not going to be a significant use. And the planning board had similar concerns, but they just want to make sure it's only for one house and it's only for, maybe in the future. It's nothing cast in stone yet.
So I have a question about that though. It does cross a wetland now, correct? So would they be removing that driveway, restoring that to a natural condition? Was that in the discussion? Because I don't remember this ever being discussed before, to be honest.
I don't recall it either.
Yeah.
I remember the road was going to be, the emergency access was going to be gated, and there would be a gate up at all times. Not that it was actually going to be potentially be used ever.
Yeah, it wasn't.
That's not going to be the case.
Well, it wasn't going to be used for through traffic. And, this one, I know we talked about it plenty of times at the planning board. Must not have got mentioned, at least not discussed in a lot of detail at this point. But if in the future he does want to access onto St. James Way, part of that would be to remove the existing driveway, which goes right next to the wetland, and restore that area. So he's going to weigh his options. He knows he's going to have one or the other. But it would be very expensive to abandon the one off of Dunstable Road and restore that area and construct a new one. So he's weighing that out, but he wants to have the option available. And like I said, if and when that time comes, we would have to file a new notice of intent for that lot.
If he does that, does that mean that the gates on St. James Way are removed?
No, it would still be a gated way, and his only way in would be up through St. Paul Lane and St. Augustine Drive. It would not come in off of Dunstable Road. So he would have to come up through the new subdivision and down St. James Way a couple hundred feet and turn into his driveway. He wouldn't be able to get St. James Way would still remain a gated emergency access, even if his driveway is off of it.
So with the gating of St. James, was it gated at both ends or just down at the Dunstable Road end?
It's going to be gated at both ends, but the upper gate is going to be just downhill from his driveway if and when that's constructed.
Okay. That makes it clearer. Thank you.
Okay.
I think in our draft order, we do talk about some other offsite improvements. We could just you could throw in and future driveway for 48 Dunstable and make sure that it's clear, you know, that a filing may be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it may make sense to have that condition, but, you know, any work within 100 feet needs to have an notice of intent filing anyway. So. it's
I think
kinda
the point would just be, it might memorialize it in some way that we know that that might be happening.
Okay. Is that something that can be a quick add or rather than extending the meeting?
Well, how do you guys feel about it?
I think it should be memorialized.
I mean,
Yeah, I
the-
do
the
too.
first-
That lesson.
the project description, the very last sentence talks about off-site improvements such as water line distribution improvements, drainage improvements to St. Augustine's, and new sidewalks may require a notice of intent. I think we could just throw in any future driveway to 48 Dunstable Road.
Okay, that sounds good.
Fair.
Works for me.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. Okay, are there questions from the audience on this?
There may be. There was at least one attendee that I thought was interested.
I'm not seeing any questions or hands raised
Okay, thanks, Matt.
from the attendees.
Okay, so can I have a,
Carol,
Motion to-
good job on number 44. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks.
can I have a motion to approve the orders as amended?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
Aye.
Margaret,
aye.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Ann?
Think I have to abstain. Is that right, Carol?
Yes, that's correct.
And Marilyn too?
Jim?
Oh, maybe. I don't
Yes.
know.
Jim says yes.
Carol, do I have
Marilyn,
to,
you have to abstain.
then somebody else should make the motion.
Yep. Do over.
Do over.
Go over.
All right, I move we approve the order of conditions as amended.
Second,
Margaret, second. Eric,
Yep.
Margaret,
yes.
Marilyn, abstain. Ann, abstain. Jim?
Jim votes yes.
And Peter votes yes. Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Concentration limit for down,
Margaret?
which is otherwise with
Yes.
particular matter 2.5.
Marilyn,
Yes.
That, you'll look
Ann,
at that.
abstain.
I have
Jim?
to abstain on that too.
Yes.
No, you don't have to. Jim?
So I do see that John Mandeville has his hand raised now.
A little late.
I know you've closed the hearing.
Well, the hearing's closed, so.
Okay, are we all set?
Believe
Yeah, we're
so.
done with you, Mike.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next item, which is Dooley, 16 Polyanil Road.
So Peter, they have asked to continue and they'd like to continue to June.
June, okay. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I couldn't really hear, but it was continued to sometime in June.
Carol, did you say June 10th?
Yes, they are still going back to the zoning board of appeals. And so they wanted time to try to work through a relocation if there was another spot for the garage.
I made a motion to do that.
Second,
All those in favor, Eric,
Aye.
Margaret,
Yes,
Marilyn,
Yes,
Ann,
yes,
Jim,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next agenda item, which is Franklin, 31 Bridge Street.
Chris, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Chris, what's happened since our last meeting 2 weeks ago?
We've removed a bunch of railroad ties. We're close to the area. I gave Carol a couple of pictures. The container that had the batteries in it, I asked the tenant to remove those, and those batteries were removed, and he shot a picture of the unit showing there were no batteries there, and they were moved to inside of the building. I talked to Carol the other day. I gotta meet with the asphalt company to find out where they want to put storage containers. They're just barely starting back to work, and we've been pulling stuff out slowly. We've accumulated a pile of debris that needs to get hauled away. The problem is no one's worked in a month or two, so no one's got any extra dinero to get it hauled away, but it is pulled out of the wetlands area, out of the asphalt. So we've been slowly but surely pecking away at it. Hopefully the weather gets a little warmer, so I'm not needing to have my ice clothes on to work out there. Any questions for me?
Carol?
So Chris did send me some photos just tonight, so I didn't get a chance to share them or get them onto a screen. But it did look like there was some work going on those railroad ties. So when I talked to Chris the other day, I also expressed that we need to start moving on to the next phase of how the asphalt company in particular and any other tenants that do any storage are going to contain that storage, because that needs to be part of what his plan is. And we also talked about there was some material still on the side of the house that's been non-livable, I guess, for a while. And Chris, what were you gonna do about that? I can't remember the answer on that one.
The house, right now, I've got an architect working on trying to design a new plan and I'll be back to that, you folks with that later, but take the house and tie it into the existing structure in the back and kind of refigure that whole area. We're working on just trying to clean up the area so it looks prettier. Don't know what we're gonna do.
Or piece that gravel that's kind of up against the building or up against the yard area.
Part of the asphalt companies, ongoing, work for doing road pay, I guess base coats or whatever, I don't know, for the asphalt company. They use it when they're putting in new driveways, things like that. So I've got to talk to them to see about how, what we can do about that material. But again, I'm also trying to figure out what to do with that, the house and all the rest. So that is, hopefully the architect will have plans in the next month or so. So I'll be able to figure out what to do there. I'll be back from the planning and all the planning board and to you folks to come up with a proposal for the house and the building behind it. And I'm looking to try to minimize any on the, I don't know, is it east, west, whatever, the Brook side of where the Brook is exposed, to minimize traffic and stuff in that area. And on the other side of it, the building between the white block building there, that would be the more heavily trafficked area. That's what we're working on.
You need to make sure your architect understands the floodplain, because if you're
Yeah.
tying into something else, you can't be reducing flood storage.
No,
If it's within the floodplain.
we would be coming back to you and saying, look, I want to do this. I'm going to give up this, you know, it'll be a negotiation, let's say. Well, that'll be the hope.
Well, the Wetlands Act has some specifics that you have to comply with.
All right, I'll inform him and have him look into it and have him work on that before they come up with a plan that's just get thrown out right away.
And then how about the tenant on the, I guess I'm trying to get my directions correct as well. There was one that you and I talked about too that has a lot of stuff that kind of has moved into the woods.
Yeah, I asked them, they're the ones that have that same tenant is controls those other two tenants. And I asked them to start pulling the stuff away so I could finish getting some kind of blocking on that side of the building, more towards the foundry side of the building. And they said they were going to start working on that over the next couple of weeks to try to pull it away. We can have a buffer zone, and then I'm going to meet with you to say what you want as a, you know, the concrete blocks, or is it Jersey barriers to keep the stuff, you know, keep it away from the brook. So
I don't know if the commission has an opinion on the concrete blocks versus the Jersey barriers, but I think whatever has a smaller footprint or less flood storage loss was probably the more appropriate type of structure you'd want. Do any of you know, have any opinion?
Blocks, did you mean like the 4x4 concrete blocks, 4 feet
Yeah,
wide by 4 feet?
yeah, the ones you get from Granite, their end of batch pours or whatever, the, you know, those ones that are fairly inexpensive to get. Those are what I'm thinking of using.
Like
I'm not sure if
6,
they're
8
any
inches?
wider than Jersey barriers. They're just heavy as heck.
This isn't concrete block that would be used to build a wall, right? That'll get pushed over the first people that bumps into it, it'll knock it over.
No, these are the ones that are probably stand about 3 feet high and that are like, you know, 4x4, probably 3 feet high. And
Okay, all right, good. I'm okay with those. I know those, Carol, I think those have a little larger footprint than a Jersey barrier, but I think they'd be relatively permanent too.
yeah, they you can't pick them up with, you know, if you bump into them, they're not going to roll over or move or anything. They stay put.
Right.
So they're much more substantial.
Yeah, I think if that's what you think is a better thing, that's fine. I think he just needs to account for that, you know, in his overall flood storage loss, and whether there's compensation with some of the stuff he's been removing or is going to be removing, and how they're going to look to kind of maintain that, the rest of their piles, you know, whether it's a tenant who's bringing in asphalt, or it's a tenant who's bringing in landscaping debris, you know, it needs to be contained so that it's not taking up flood storage, you just all over the site like it was.
Okay, any other comments from the commission? When do we want to continue this to, again, 2 weeks or out a month, Carol? I'll ask Carol.
Well, I guess so long as Chris has that direction and he thinks he can get something into us, you know, in a month, I think what I was saying to Chris is that the vegetation's all starting to leaf out. I don't want it to all just disappear in the vegetation. So he needs to kind of get on it as quickly as he can, since we've been really talking about it since last fall. I know weather has never been all that great, but that's what you have to deal with. So, and then I guess the other part that I would want to see if we did continue it a month out is DEP still hasn't issued a file number. And I think somehow, Chris, you need to really get on that and find out if they've received your plan or whatever, because we can't issue a permit without it. So it's not going to move us any further along.
I'll follow up. I sent them the larger plan with the color, like went down and Printing Solutions got squared away. So We'll follow it up. I haven't, again, I haven't heard anything or seen anything, hasn't come across my, in the mail to me, so I don't, it's like you mail it to purgatory as far as I'm concerned with them at this point. So.
Peter, there is a comment or question from the public.
Okay. Bill Harmon. Bill, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead, Bill.
question.
What's your question?
I have a question that's not tightly connected to what you're saying, but anyway, my question is about Beltwell Brook. I was wondering for years, where does Beltwell Brook flow? And I had an opportunity after a big rainstorm in March to answer that, which is that it flows into Graniteville Pond. But apparently in the area of this Franklin property, it's underground. So I was just wondering, does anybody know why it was put underground for a long distance there?
Well, I think it's obviously that back when those buildings were built before the Wetlands Protection Act, that it was piped down and in. So,
Oh,
I mean, it was done way before any of the acts were in place, Bill.
yes, I see. You mean not for water power, but just to get it out of the way?
Yes.
Probably, yeah, because it goes under part of it goes under the building, I believe.
Yeah, just a general background, if you're not familiar with the area, there was a building built in there. They took advantage of the railroad siding, because where used to be a coal yard where Healy's has their they store their trucks, and that building burned down in the late. You'll see the footings, and that building burned down in the late 80s, early 90s, and they piped underneath the diverted the brook to go underneath in the pipe and go under. And it also goes under the foundry further down. So the foundry and the foundry's was there since the 1870s, 1880s, and talking with Jim Buchanan, the owner of the foundry. His great grandfather owned it, or maybe great, I don't know. And so it went under it goes under their property and my property. The block building was put up in the 1960, but there was an old wood and metal structure that's now open because it again burned down in the late 80s, early 90s. And it had a railroad siding, and they used to load all their equipment, etc., onto rail cars and move it around the country, around the world, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill. So, the point of all this, Bill, is that we're trying to get the whole site cleaned up. So.
Oh, I understand that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So were you guys okay with waiting till June 10th, or Chris, do you feel like you can have it, you'd rather come back in 2 weeks and have more discussion?
No, June 10th will be fine. We have a holiday coming up, and that's we're just hopefully we'll see what they can open up and see if I can get some people in there to help out cleaning some of the stuff up. So I think June 10th is an appropriate time frame.
Okay.
That's okay with the board.
Yeah. Can I have a motion to that effect to continue this public hearing to June 10th?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Eric?
Aye.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing for the Westford Tenant Center for Littleton Road.
So Peter, I think you have Matt Hammer available to speak tonight, and or Mike Sheehan. Doug Duchesne was not going to be able to be present tonight.
Okay.
Yes, good evening. This is Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering. The video is off, but I guess you can hear me, I hope.
Yep.
Yes, we can. Yep.
Oh, okay. So a couple weeks ago, we had there was a site walk on the property with Carol and Steve Erickson with Norse Environmental. We were walking around the property, reviewing the wetland line and so forth. And during that site walk, Carol identified some areas which were in need of some repair from some rilling that was caused with some runoff. Those areas they're located in two areas. One is directly behind the building, in front of the void that's between the two sides of the building there. And the other is to the westerly side of the building, more specifically out in front of wetland flag 35A and 36A. Carol had recommended that we repair those areas. And this plan is to identify where those areas are, and that we're going to repair those areas by filling in the rilling with some loam and some seed, and then covering that seeded area with some jute matting that you would get from like an agway, which is a weave material, so that it can withstand any additional rainwater that would come down that could potentially cause that erosion to reoccur. Secondly, we wanted to show where we want to plant the 6 trees that are shown on the easterly side of the parking area. If you notice, there's 6 trees there. Steve Erickson recommended that we plant red maples there. And we didn't want to put those trees in without the commission seeing where we wanted to locate those. Those 6 trees are the same number of trees that were originally part of the original order of conditions for the project. And we located them in that area because north of that area, there's an infiltration system. And then even north of the infiltration system, there's the backside of a septic system. So this seems to be the only area where we could plant those trees, and we wanted to show you those locations. Thirdly, Carol had mentioned behind the gap in the building at the rear, if we could show some mitigation for some drainage. So similar to what is on the westerly side of the building, there's an infiltration drip drain there. Carol had recommended that we remove the stone that's there and reintroduce stone to get the fines out of that stone drip drain so that it can function better, because the drip drain was causing the rilling on that westerly side of the building. So she had recommended that we remove the stone that's there, get the sediment out of that stone, and put in new stone and replace. So as part of that replacement of that existing drip drain, we had discussed doing a similar drip drain on the back side of the building, so that any water that comes out from between the two buildings can get captured in that horizontal infiltration trench. And that's what we're calling some mitigation right now to the situation with the rilling, the drip drain, and also to show you where those trees are located. I can put it.
Okay, Carol, do you have comments on this?
Sure. So the site visit was initially set up with Steve Erickson so that he and I could look at the wetland line. I think that in my expectation was to hear something back from him as to whether, he thought that the wetland line should be changed at all. There were at least a couple of flags that he indicated he didn't think he would have hung where they were located. So we're not sure what happened with that, but they were, kind of in the water area. So it was definitely within the wetland. The other thing Matt didn't mention, but they were also looking to do some cleanup. If you remember, there'd been a lot of wind-blown debris that I'd seen in the wetlands. And so I think that they were gonna get started on doing that. And the only question I really have is in terms of the trees, what size trees are we talking about? And was the spacing clear on the plan, you know, so when somebody goes, they know what they're purchasing for size and where they're going to exactly locate them. And then, you know, I think since the work is being proposed to take care of essentially a violation, I'm not sure how you feel you want to proceed with allowing the work, whether you want to do it as sort of a friendly enforcement order and have some conditions in there, or, I mean, they don't have a permit otherwise to be doing work in the resource areas.
Friendly enforcement order?
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's a good idea.
So I can say, it's Matt Hammer again. The trees will be 2-inch caliper trees. And I can say that the wetland and the debris in the wetland has been cleaned up. And in addition to that, there's a couple trailers. There's 2 trailers at the end of the parking area. There's a boat and a truck, and all of those items are scheduled to be removed.
and Matt, I actually forgot, what about the catch basin cleaning?
That's actually being scheduled right now. We tried to get that scheduled 2 weeks ago. We ran into some issues with the drain cleaning company. They couldn't get out there, but that's currently being scheduled to be cleaned out and vacuumed out.
Okay,
So we should add that to the enforcement order just because we
Right.
originally brought that up last meeting.
okay,
Matt,
all right. So
Matt, what's the distance going to be between those maples that are planted?
Hold on one second. I'm going to smooth it.
Looks about 10 feet, maybe.
Oh, okay. So if it's,
They're-
okay, so
they're
it's got room
15.
to establish and not crowd each other.
They're 15 feet, Ms. Wheeler.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion to issue a friendly enforcement order to have this work done in the buffer zone?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Aye.
Margaret,
Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Ian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and Peter, yes.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So we'll continue this on to our next meeting. When's the time frame do you, Mark, do you think this is all going to get done?
We're going to do this right away over the next 2 weeks. And it's my understanding from talking to Attorney DeShanes last evening that we're going to be rescheduled to the 10th. Is that correct, Carol?
I think that's what Doug would request, yes. The June
Yes.
10th.
Yeah.
The 10th, okay. So can I have a motion to continue this public hearing to June 10th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Ian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next scheduled item, which is the continuation of a public hearing for Stone Ridge Development. Anybody here for this?
No, they would like to continue the hearing as well to June 10th. And
Okay.
they are still working on their emergency action plan with the State Office of of Dam Safety.
Yeah, okay.
And they didn't really have anything new to report on that for tonight's meeting. So they asked to continue. The only other thing that's related, but not exactly related, is I did have a resident who was concerned today that the valve gates open might be causing some increase in wetland flooding below the dam. And I did talk with Highway Department today because they actually were removing a beaver dam that was blocking the culvert that is just north of Sherburne Lane. And so I did say to the resident that I thought it might be more beaver related, but he does feel that, you know, having those valve gates continue to be open could be also changing the hydrology and the wetland characteristics. So I wanted to mention that.
Okay. All right, can we have a motion then to continue this to June 10th?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All in favor, Eric?
Aye.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ann?
yes,
Jim?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, our next item is a discussion item, request to place a geocache in Grassy Pond.
So Peter, I did reach out to that individual a couple of times and I finally heard back he's not gonna, he's not looking to do that any longer. So.
Okay,
Yes.
so we can forget about that. Okay, great.
move on.
Next item is the Adams property, right of first refusal for Chapter 62A on the 2 lots located in Providence Road.
That's interesting.
Right, so if you remember last meeting, I mentioned this just in the open forum. We did receive a letter from David Adams. However, it doesn't necessarily meet the criteria that's required for notifying the town of the Chapter 61A process. But we were asked to, if we knew whether we had an interest, that the selectmen would like to know that. If we don't have an interest, that they'd like to know that as well.
I don't think we do. Does the rest of the commission agree that we don't have any interest in these 2 parcels?
Agree.
Okay, Bill's raised his hand.
Say yeah.
Bill, you got a comment?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, I just want to bring up the point that there is a road shown on maps in the 1700s and 1800s that would be a nice amenity for the town to save it. And one of these 2 lots includes a part of the road. So the way I realized the town couldn't do anything legally forcefully other than buying that whole lot. But it would be an opportunity for the selectmen to point out that advantage and to ask the owners if they would consider helping the town in that way. And I think the way that the owner could help would be a rather small change to the plan, which would be to allow the public to use and maybe have a conservation restriction on a very small strip, a very small portion of that lot. So that's my comment, just that one little comment. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem here, Bill, is if it stays in the Adams family, that won't happen because we tried to negotiate with them and get that, but they would have nothing to do with it. If they end up selling that lot to somebody else, then there is a possibility we could approach the new owners and ask for an easement to get through there. So I don't know what their plans are at this point. So
I guess my point is even a little simpler than that, though, Peter, which is simply to notify the selectmen that this would, in case they don't know about it, that this would be an advantage to the town, and just to mention it while they're talking with the Adams.
But Bill, you have to understand, we tried to negotiate for years to get the right of way to go through there. And it's not going to happen with the Adams family.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think one other little thing to say, which is in the past, it has happened that an owner wanting to build right away would appreciate rapid action before the deadline, the statutory deadline for Chapter 61A. And the town could offer that in exchange for what I feel is a rather small. I understand your point, Peter, and I'm not contradicting it. I just had that one other idea. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
That's fine. I mean, we can send a memo to the selectmen to that effect. Okay.
Well, that would be very good. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Carol, can you do that for us?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, great. Next discussion item is request to modify the dock and kayak rack at Alderpoint, 354 Groton Road.
Hi, good evening. Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultant. How is everyone tonight?
Fine, Matt.
Hi, Matt, you?
Good. Thank you for the meeting, of course, with, the webinar. It's very helpful to keep things moving. We're here tonight for Alderpoint, which is 354 Groton Road on Flushing Pond for a minor modification. It's a request to replace the existing dock with a smaller kayak launch. The dock would be located in the same location that the existing dock is, and it would be smaller. We would remove the old dock and dispose of it in an offsite location. We do have a condition that discussed this in the order of conditions, number 27, which kind of talked about replacing portions of the existing dock, rehabbing it, maintaining it, replacing decking, that type of items. But it also had a condition, or the condition also noted that any modification may be subject to review by this board or the state, which is why we're here tonight. We're requesting that we remove the dock, which is about 20 by 20, installing the smaller kayak launch, which is secured to the shoreline with iron pins. It's a newer style aluminum dock. It's lightweight. It's easy to lift out of the lake. It will be removed during the wintertime. And we're here tonight to request that the commission allow this as a minor modification.
This
Comments from the
aluminum dock
commission?
is smaller than the existing one and much better shape, and it's not going to leach anything into the water. So I think this is an improvement.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I have no issues.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so can I have a motion to view this as a minor modification to the plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Eric?
Aye.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. You good, Matt?
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we're going to our next item, which is the request for certificate of compliance. We're not going to do 4 Littleton Road. How about the other two, Carol?
For Bennett, I'm not sure how they say that, 6 Randolph Circle, I'm fine with you issuing a certificate of compliance for that. The only modification that I could see was that instead of grading out, they had done a terrace retaining wall. This was an older project. I don't know who was around for it. It's before my time, that they put in a pool and had grading originally proposed. It was signed off by Bill Turner on the building permit. So he apparently was fine with those changes. And there's really no issue as far as resource protection. It's in good shape.
Okay. So approve the certificate of compliance for 6 Randolph Circle, 334-1048.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Eric?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Marilyn?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jim?
Yes.
Peter, aye. Okay, and how about 334 Groton Road, Carol? No?
Well, I'm not sure if anybody's on for this or not, but I did do a site visit with Steve Erickson. And
Carol.
oh, Steve's here. Okay. So Steve and I did a site visit and just looked around to see whether or not there might be areas that could be restored or improved to provide some greater protection, since there had been so many alterations on the property that had not been reviewed or approved by the commission. And then I think Margaret might have gone, and Eric sounded like he had at least looked at it also. And then the only other thing was that Margaret had asked if we could get the distances shown on the plan for some of these structures. And Steve provided that.
Okay, other comments from the commission?
The shed seems very close and there's no distance marked on that, right?
No, there is.
Shed, the new plan shows the shed, I think it's, actually, let me bring up the plan.
This is
Oh,
the
these are
older
in the-
plan.
Sent the picture.
Yeah.
Not the pictures that we have on here are different. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the shed, it's like 11 feet from the edge of the pond.
Yes, the new plan does delineate that, shows it as 11 feet.
Right, so there was, I guess, there's the shed was 11 feet, the gravel landscape timbers were 11 feet. The sandbox area was 20 feet. And the screen house is 24 feet. So the landscape timber wall, which also houses the well, is probably some of that is within the 30-foot area, the no disturb typically. It looks like also the deck, which comes out to that lower retaining wall would also be within the 30-foot, or a portion of it might be. It showed somebody else, I think at the last meeting, had asked about the septic system, and they're showing that the septic tank, I guess, at 75 feet, and the leaching fields look to be outside of the 100-foot. I don't think any of the septic was originally shown in the 100 feet. So when the house changed, it looks like they moved that a little closer.
Yeah, if I remember right, it's a 33-year-old order of conditions. So it was a while ago.
There's just so many things that we wouldn't okay today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I understand.
What about opportunities to like remove the concrete pad and maybe, the smaller shed and some of the debris and things that we saw that could easily be, removed?
I don't think we wouldn't have a problem removing the shed. That wouldn't be a problem. There's a fire pit that's actually rather close, an old brick fire pit that's in miserable condition, and we wouldn't have any trouble removing that. The concrete pad, I don't think that's a big deal. It doesn't look like much to me, so I think we could do that as well.
How about those, the landscape timbers in the vicinity of that concrete pad? The ones that are 11 feet from the pond?
You mean associated with the gravel and concrete pad area?
Yes, the one that's closest to the shed. Because I'm just looking at the stuff that's closest to the pond. There's also, a concrete pad behind the garage. That's okay. That's far enough away. It's like 60 feet or something. But the gravel area, concrete pad, the fire pit, and the shed are all 10 or 11 feet or less.
Yeah, the concrete pad and the gravel area we could easily restore. That wouldn't be a problem at all. The landscape timber wall is actually well built. I would hate to take that apart. I think that would be a real problem. It would make a mess.
Well,
I think he just meant the timbers around the concrete pad.
Right,
Yeah,
only the ones near the concrete
landscape
pad,
timbers could
not
be
the ones
taken
near
out.
the well.
I'm sorry?
Not the ones near the well, but the ones near the concrete pad.
Yeah, those could be taken out without any problem.
Right.
So Steve, how would you then restore the area as far, and actually, let me go back before we ask that. Eric mentioned debris piles. I think Margaret, when she did her site visit, Margaret, you might want to say you had seen a lot of debris.
yeah, there's a lot of brush and debris that's been discarded on the backside of the stockade fence, between the stockade fence and the pond. There's black hose in a couple of places that look like they used to pump water out of the pond. There's a lot of 4x4 timbers. There's the pumping unit that's been discarded between the shed and the pond. So there's a lot of stuff that I think we'd really want to get cleaned out of there.
I don't disagree at all. I'm sure that the new owners will prefer to get rid of that. And you're right, it appears that they use the pond for irrigation. So they're not doing that anymore. That stuff should be disposed of properly.
Easy enough.
And there's one thing, one of the timbered retaining walls near the screen porch, it's actually starting to fall apart because of the roots of the tree near the screen porch. So that's a screen house. So that's probably, I think that's something they're going to want to do something about, and they need to come to talk to us if they want to do something there.
We will inform them of that. I didn't look at the screen house in particular. I guess it just didn't attract my attention a lot, so I don't really know how to speak to that.
Well, when I was walking there, I noticed that timbered retaining wall was starting to fall apart. And one of the things we might be concerned about is if that really collapses and we start having the material that it was holding back, a heavy rainstorm or something starting to send that across the lawn into the pond.
So that leads me to
we'll make note of that, and I'll inform them of that, and I'll tell them that they have to file with the Conservation Commission if they expect to rebuild it or do any work on it.
Yeah, so that leads me to the question about then if they're removing all of these things, obviously, again, there's not a permit. So do we want to do an enforcement order to allow for certain things or to require certain things? And then what about the restoration and stabilizing? Did those of you who saw it want to have some plantings put in the place of the shed when they take out the concrete and gravel pad? Do you want it reseeded just as lawn, or do you want it reseeded with conservation mix and not maintained, or what are those other kinds of criteria?
Well, I was considering or thinking not maintained, but just like a wild seed mix or something like that. I mean, if they wanted to plant or do something more than that, then maybe just some sort of simple planting plan or something.
Well, and actually, before we go there, one of the other questions is that a permitted dock? Because the dock also looked like it's falling apart.
I don't know the status of that.
Okay.
So you mean, does it have a license, Margaret?
Yeah, does it, first of all, does it have a license? And if it doesn't, then it really needs to be removed. Because if it is a permitted dock and they wanted to retain, and they wanted to repair the dock and retain access to the pond, then we've got to look at, yes, I agree, we want to have the buffer to the pond renaturalized, but if they've got access to the dock, that makes it a little bit more complicated.
Well, the dock should absolutely be replaced at some point in time, and they should get a permit for that. I agree.
Well, and if they want to do that, then that's part of, I think the plan of what we do in terms of renaturalizing as much of the pond edge as possible, but then having to leave access to the dock.
So
I don't have a problem with that.
So I'm still not completely clear on the renaturalizing. Are we saying that we don't want a certain area mowed, and do we want that delineated in some way? I mean, we had this issue at Summer Village, so I'd like to be clear.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that this should really conform to the same sets of setbacks and naturalization that we would do with any project that came forward wanting to do, install decks and other structures within the buffer zone, that we'd still want the same setback we require of every filing.
That may be, I don't know if you'll be able to quite achieve that, but I mean, I was thinking about, certain areas being naturalized, and maybe they come back to us with some sort of, proposal on, we've told them the things that we'd like to see removed. But, maybe they provide us with something, we've given them some direction. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, they have some input as well.
Uh-huh.
I think it would be appropriate to give the enforcement order to move the shed, the garage and the slab. Take that stuff out of there. And
Garage? I think the garage is okay, probably where it is.
no, not the garage, the slab.
The slab and the gravel, yeah.
And take that out of there and revegetate that with lawn, just like the surrounding area is. And then any additional work they want to do on the site, like replacing the dock, they would file a notice of intent for. And
Well, yeah,
then
but
we
I
could
think to
discuss the
get
other
the
option.
certificate of compliance, we're saying that we want to see naturalization along the edge of the pond. And I think that's where Eric's going with, we're giving them some direction. They come back with a plan, because if they want that certificate of compliance, we're looking at more than just those structures being removed.
The site is, you know, it's a 33-year-old order of conditions, and it's pretty well vegetated now. There are shrubs along most of the edge of the pond, except for the areas of access to the dock. So I don't know. I just don't think that there's a lot of other area. You know, if they want to come back and they want to file for a new dock, they want to file for something else, then I think that's a good opportunity to look for restoration of more areas. But right now, they bought the property as it is, and there's nothing wrong with them making it better and removing some of those items. But I'm not sure that they should be fixed with a whole lot of responsibility of restoring everything when this is what they purchased.
Well, they purchased it without a certificate of compliance, so that's the issue.
Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should do the enforcement order on the concrete pad, the gravel, moving the shed, getting rid of the pit, and then have them come back to us with that and tell us what they're going to do with the dock. And if they're going to do any more work on the site, then it's going to have, part of it's going to have to involve restoration of some of the buffer.
I think that's appropriate.
Sounds good.
What about that utility pole that is right near the edge of the pond, about 15 feet west of the dock? There's a pole that's mounted that looks like it has plug outlets on it.
Boy, I should have taken the walk with you, because I don't even remember seeing that.
In one of the pictures too, yeah.
Yeah, it's in one of the pictures. It's probably across from where that sandbox is. It's right there in the shrubs at the edge of the water.
I'm not remembering it either, even though you said it's in the picture.
I don't recall that at the moment.
So what did you want it removed?
Yeah, I mean, I would want it removed, because I think that's leading towards a level of activity we don't want to see right at the edge of the wetland. Carol, can you bring up the pictures that I had sent you?
Whatever I put in the packet is what Matt has. He's the one who's kind of handling them.
Okay, so he doesn't have it then.
No, it's in the packet. Eric, sounds like you saw it.
Yep.
Yeah, I sent you some of your pictures, Margaret.
Yeah.
I tried not
What
to
is
send
it? Is it a metal pole or is it a telephone pole? What is it?
Look wood.
It's a pressure treated pole. It's probably about 4 by 4 and about 10 or 12 feet tall.
Yeah, and what's on it?
It looks like there's a junction box with electrical outlets on it.
And then some
Okay, so
conduit.
if they take the
that goes
pole
down.
out, that means they're going to have to dig up the whole area to pull out all the electrical lines.
Well, no, they could cut it and cap it.
I mean, what's it there for?
It is kind of a weird place, Eric. I don't know what it's for. But it's right on the water's edge.
Yeah.
Fine, then let's throw that in there. They need to remove the pole as part of the enforcement order.
And Peter, also the debris that Margaret mentioned too.
Right, yeah, and the debris. So, I mean, you can work this up, Carol. You've heard everything we've talked about of putting into the enforcement order, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I guess my only comment in addition is I would lean more towards what Eric was saying. I don't think we should be encouraging it to be lawn in the areas that we're trying to restore where they're taking those things out. So I would say it should probably be some wetland conservation mix kind of a thing.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, put that in there.
Other than that, I'm good.
Okay. Steve, do you hear everything we've come up with?
I do. Could we authorize Carol to issue the certificate of compliance on completion of that work?
Not yet.
Well, the commission has to vote on it, so.
Yeah, we have to vote on that, so we have to vote on it, so.
And I think we want to see what it looked like after all that work had been done.
All right.
Okay, so can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as discussed?
So move.
Eric,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Ann?
Version.
I
I
don't
don't know,
see
I
any.
lost her.
I think it looks like we lost her.
You lost her? Okay, Peter, yes. Okay, so you're all set, Steve. She'll get that out to you, and you know what we're looking for.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you. Yeah. Okay, we're moving on to our last agenda item, which is East Boston Camps, Marcus Lewis Day Camp.
That's sad.
Very sad.
It is a sad
It's a sad
situation.
situation.
I think we had a really good tenant there for quite a number of years. He paid a reasonable amount of rent, had a good reputation. He negotiated and dealt with us on a fair level in terms of the issues that, especially the issues I had in terms of public access during camp. He compromised on that, and also worked with us, not 100% successfully, but attempted to with the traffic problems. The speeding, mom and dad's dropping off the kids and picking up kids. So overall, I think it was a very good experience, and I'm willing to.
A true professional.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm willing
absolutely.
to release the
Very much so.
release him from any contract obligations, because I think if we enforce what we have in the contract as it is, the only thing we'd be doing would be killing more of his businesses. I mean, we didn't do this to him. He didn't do it to himself, but we try to make him pay his rent and continue on.
Carol, is that you?
I can't shut it off the computer.
If we force continuation of the contract, we're going to have, we're going to be killing off his other businesses that he's going to have to draw it from to pay for this stuff. So I'm willing to cancel the remaining issues, open actions on his contract.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just ask a question, Peter?
Yeah.
I've just never really dealt with a contract with the town. Do you think there's anything that we should do to double check with town council,
With the
just
town?
proper procedure?
Oh, well, yeah, you can double check with town council to make sure, but we need to let town council know that we voted to go ahead and terminate the contract.
Okay.
Okay?
Does Marilyn want to speak? Or-
Yeah.
Okay.
Marilyn?
I was so saddened to see this because I think he's been a wonderful, wonderful tenant, as he said before. I think the outreach that he's done to underprivileged children and to people who couldn't afford, everything that he's done has been top draw. So I hope that we also get a letter, beside releasing him from his contract, I tell him how much we appreciated him and how we wish him well going forward. So I'd like that to be mentioned in the letter as well.
Okay, so the commission, there was a motion to terminate the contract with Marcus Lewis. Can I have a roll call? Eric?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And there's Ann. Ann's back. Ann, did you hear that?
I
Okay,
listened on the phone after I lost you.
Okay, and Peter, yes. Okay, so as far as the status of what's going to happen this summer, it's up in the air, and likely nothing's going to happen up there this summer. It depends what happens in the next 30 days, basically, with the governor. But I think it's probably that the town isn't going to have their destination exploration. At this point, there's no sense in opening the beaches up. There's no sense
Well, the
in
beaches
doing
are
it.
open. Like the governor hasn't closed beaches, so the town considers them open.
Oh, they do? So he hasn't closed beaches? Oh, okay.
But-
So we have to have the
but I
water
haven't-
tested then, right?
But I haven't started the testing, you know, and so that was one question was, you know, right now, the state requires that we test all 3 spots, even though, like, on the girls' side, really, nobody really uses it as a beach, but when the Board of Health has tried to get them to reduce the number of testing spots, so it's $75 a week for testing for the beaches.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to do it. If the beaches are gonna be open, I mean, the public goes there, so we need to be testing the water, so. Everybody agree with that? We need to do the test?
Yes.
If we're obligated to do so.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
The only choice is either if the beach is open, we got to test them. If we close them,
Yeah, even if we close them, Jim, the problem is there's no way
They're
to
not.
enforce it there, basically,
Right.
so, yeah. So we're gonna test the beaches. The other issue we need to talk about is, as you know, we have a new 3-year contract with the maintenance at the camps. And so, you know, he's up there, he's done all the opening things that are going on to get the place opened. At this point, we don't know if we can even rent out some of the cabins later on this season, but that is a possibility. We have plenty of money in the revolving fund. We have 177,000 in the revolving fund, so we have plenty of money to pay the maintenance guy for this year. So I wouldn't recommend not doing, you know, canceling his contract at this point.
I agree.
And can I just add, I think that there's a lot of maintenance that we could do. You know, Peter gave me a list of what some of the improvements have been. And even just seeing tonight, he sent me some photos of the leaks that he has to repair for the water system. He's been doing a good job getting them all soldered and joints fixed. So there's lots of infrastructure kind of maintenance and building maintenance that while we don't have anyone in May, hopefully that he can continue with that. We actually haven't had all of the cancellations yet, but Michelle Collette from Recreation has been reaching out to people to see about that. And then just to say, in terms of recreation, I think, Peter, you're probably quite right. It may not happen, but they haven't yet said it's not going to happen, you know, that they're still hoping that they can run a program.
Right.
But they're still working and waiting to see what the governor says and how they would handle all their rec programs. They're still trying to figure out.
Okay, so for now, we're just gonna wait and see. We'll continue with doing the building maintenance and paying him, so, all right?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Anything else that anybody needs to bring up?
Can
Or
I
is
get
that
on
it?
that one, Peter? I'd like to recommend that we have the zip line removed.
Safety.
Yeah, I mean, it was only being used by Marcus Lewis's day camp.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, at this point, if we don't have it for the next tenant, I think it's probably a safer thing, and we don't have to deal with the potential injuries in the wintertime if people are out on their, you know.
Who are you gonna get to take that down? Do you know who
Well, I
to
can
do?
talk to our facility manager first and see whether he has the capability of it. And if
Okay.
not, I would probably have to talk to Rob Albright, who did the repairs and installation, and he was the one who certified it.
Okay. What do you guys
That's
think
good.
about that?
I
I think that's a good idea to remove it.
Sounds right.
Nuisance.
What?
Okay, Carol.
Okay.
That it?
That's
I
it.
think so.
Okay,
I'd
motion-
like to make sure everyone can come tomorrow to get your signatures. I'm going to meet Margaret at 1:15, so I will be there like 1:15 to 2 or whatever works.
Okay. Yep, okay.
Sounds good.
And we also, in our packet, we had an information note from Pan Am Railways for the
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Great, I saw that.
emergent spreading of, what do you call it, herbicide. I've never seen it. I don't know if what they're doing on this. I don't know what to say on it. I don't know.
Well, I think you can say the same thing you say every year. You'd like to go along if you can.
I
I'm
did that.
retired now, so it's like I could be sitting around waiting. That's all I'm doing for the last 2 months is sitting around waiting.
Well, we can make the inquiry again.
All right.
All right, good. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Margaret,
yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes, good night.
and Peter, yes. Good night, everybody.
Hi.
All righty, see ya. Yep, bye-bye.
That's it, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Carol.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Carol.